and welcome to the Directors Club podcast. I'm Jim Lazkowski, and we are live in apartment. Or is it a condo?
It's an apartment.
Okay, it's an apartment. And we have two of the smartest, most articulate guests that have appeared on this show in the past. I couldn't be happier to be sitting near them today.
Wait a second. I think every time I've recorded this with you, we've been
articulate?
in an apartment as well.
Okay. You're probably right.
So it's not like this whole recording in an apartment is an entirely new thing.
That's true. But we're all kind of used to doing the Skype thing.
Well, that's
not
true.
looking at each other's faces.
That's true.
Yeah. So, we'll see how this goes. I mean, it might be really awkward. Awkward pause. Insert awkward pause here. How
would it be awkward, Jim?
That's true. Just saying awkward is awkward. So you guys host a wonderfully entertaining science fiction podcast called Still Watching the Skies, which you can find at wherelongtailends.com. First up, we have someone whose distinctive voice can be heard on the David Lynch episode, Otto Preminger, and John Huston, correct?
That is correct. Thank you very much, Jim.
And you would be Nat Almiral.
Yes, and well done on pronouncing the name correctly, too.
Almiral?
No, you did pronounce it correctly.
Okay.
That's why I'm not being a dick.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
I'm thanking you.
Oh, good. I have my moments. Secondly, coming all the way from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the man who joined us for Terrence Fisher, Henry George Clouseau, and a special bonus episode, which I encourage people to check out for Halloween, on horror anthology films. Please welcome Robert Reinecke.
Thanks, Jim. I'm happy to be here and happy to eat the wonderful food that Jocelyn has prepared for us.
Thank you, Jocelyn.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Very good stuff indeed. And I'm so glad that after all these years I finally pronounced your last name right. Because if you go back to the first couple episodes of Directors Club, Robert was writing in pretty early on in the show's run. And every time we would mess up the last name.
Jacques Tourneur.
I think all three of us, though, have generally unpronounceable last names.
Yeah, that's true.
I bet Kurt Haffer can pronounce it just fine.
Reneki.
Yeah. So, yeah, how did Still Watching the Skies come to be, since it's been around for over a year now, right?
2 years.
2 years. Wow.
We just had our golden 2-year anniversary last month in September.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how did this come to be?
I got an email from Robert saying, hey, I want to do a podcast on science fiction. Do you want to join? And I said, yeah.
That easy. It is that easy to start a podcast, folks.
Well, I think Robert probably would have better details on its actual origins.
Well, I had just finished up doing my Kurosawa in Order series over at wherelongtailends.com, and I had time on my hands, so I said, hey, Nat and Cody, want to join the podcast?
Hell yeah.
And Still Watching the Skies was born. So, yeah, that's a great show, guys. And I've been honored to be a part of it on a couple of occasions. And it's a lot of fun every month, right? The beginning of every month.
Yes, that's generally when the episodes drop. And our latest episode is, I can't for the life of me remember, but it's a great one. Which one did we... Wasn't it my pick?
Dark Star and Barbarella?
Yes,
Yeah.
Dark Star and Barbarella. That's our latest one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we have one that'll be dropping probably right about the time of this episode, too, a special Halloween episode.
Ooh, scary stuff. Cool.
It is very scary stuff. It's rational explorations of Haunted House.
Whoa. That's going to be a good one, folks. Stay tuned for that. The haunting, I'm guessing, is probably included in that one. But you don't have to give it away, of course, if you don't want to.
One of them is.
Okay.
Yes. We'll leave you in suspense in regards to which one.
I think that expression now, I'll leave you in suspense, is kind of...
You want me to say it deeper?
Yeah, please.
I'll leave you in suspense,
okay.
you whore.
Oh, you're a nasty man, Nat.
I try.
Yeah, very good. So, yeah, I think before we begin to talk about the director of this episode, the wonderfully versatile Jacques Tourneur.
Jacques Tourneur.
Do it?
Good for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how would each of you say it? I'm just curious.
I would go Jacques Tourneur.
Tourneur, okay.
I would say Jacques Tourneur.
Okay, very good.
That sounds the most French.
Yeah.
Tourneur.
Well, it's because you got a sneer when you say it.
Schneer.
Or Jackie Turner.
I like that one better. Yeah, because we Americanize everything.
Exactly.
So, I don't know. It's I know it's horror movie month, being October and all, but we are kind of at the beginning of awards season kind of films being released here and there. There's been a lot of film festivals, a lot of art house fare that gets a bit stronger as the year goes on. The next couple of months, I think, as film freaks that we are, we get excited because a lot of prestigious things come out, and maybe they're going to be good, and maybe they'll make our top 10 list at the end of the year. So I'm wondering if any of you have seen a title that has stood out for you and could find that special place in your top 10 of the year. And if not, that's cool too. Just bring up a title that people should be excited to see.
I'm going to yield to Robert on this one.
Okay, well, I've seen several good movies recently. Actually, today, just before we started podcasting here, I got out of a screening of Moonlight.
Oh, yeah. A lot of buzz about that one.
And it's a lot of deserved buzz about that. It's really out-of-the-ordinary coming-of-age story, I guess, or coming into one's own identity story, told at 3 different ages of one man, set in Miami. The direction is exquisite. The writing is poetic at times when it's not being used in silence artfully. The sound design is great. The ensemble acting is great across the board. I think Naomi Harris is the standout actress of it, basically because she's in the most segments. She plays the drug addict mother of the main character, and she's really wonderful. I don't think Oscar will have a lack of opportunity to nominate people of color this year, because Naomi Harris would definitely be one of them to be up for the award.
Good to hear. Yeah, I don't know too much about the director. Is this a debut film?
I don't believe it is.
Okay,
but
I haven't researched that, but I just keep hearing so much good stuff about this one that I'm excited to see it as well. I know it's playing the Chicago International Film Festival, but I'm a little poor, so it's hard to get. Unless I ever get press credentials, I don't know if I'll be splurging on tickets for that festival in particular. And now I guess all the movies are playing just at the River East as opposed to at multiple theaters, which is odd. Because River East is also. If you're just getting there, if you're getting there by car, parking options are very expensive. So that's another reason why I'm like, well, I guess I'm sitting out most of those titles this year, but they're going to come out in the next month or two.
It's not that close to any L's either.
No, it's not really.
But
yeah. Anyway, that must have been really exciting for all you non-Chicago residents. Nat, anything come to mind?
I'm trying to think. My wife and I did finally see Hunt for the Wilder People last night, which you can actually purchase on Amazon streaming, oddly enough.
Good.
And enjoyed that. I love Sam Neill so much that any flaws in anything can be overcome by him just kind of being a grizzly mountain man. And it's fun. Yeah. It's charming. It's... for all the accolades that the film's getting, I think it's a nice kind of like more down to earth. I don't necessarily want to say feel good, but left it feeling good kind of movie. And I think don't let the prestige fool you into thinking this is like some grand film. It's a lot of fun, and I think everyone here loves the director, whose name I cannot pronounce. Which will be a recurring theme throughout this episode, I suppose. But
sure.
His previous effort, What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh, so good.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. And,
nice crowd pleaser, I think.
Yeah.
But, if you happen to be fans of the Film Junk podcast, you don't have to listen to their review. They're wrong. Yeah, they're pretty cold on it. I was shocked.
I don't know. I think they said kind of something similar in that it might be something where like the hype is kind of more destructive.
Yeah, I can see that. Sure. Your turn. I'll get to my. I just have one, but we'll get to it last.
I'll throw my other one in. I saw Loving recently at the Milwaukee Film Festival, and that is pretty terrific.
No doubt.
Jeff Nichols does a very good job of telling a story that eschews all the standard historical drama cliches. It just concentrates on the people, and it is really wonderful what he does with the people. I think Ruth Negga in particular is a standout performance, maybe the standout performance I've seen this year.
Good.
It's just lovingly shot. Loving is probably a adjective as low as a noun for this film. It is really what he does and how he frames the story, just basically the relationship and how they persevered through all the turmoil. I mean, I assume that anybody that goes sees the movie knows how the court case will turn out, and he really concentrates very little on it. Basically, the minimum he had to concentrate on it. Basically, just focuses on the relationship, and it's a very deep, touching relationship, and it's literally touching as how they can't keep their hands off each other through much of the movie.
So much touching in this one. I can't wait. Everybody knows how I feel about Jeff Nichols, so I'm first in line for that one. I just think he can do no wrong, and that also includes Midnight Special. People just seem to think a lot of negative things about that movie, but that's okay. Any more, Nat?
I'm trying to think other ones that I have seen recently. So how about if I throw it to you for
okay,
one? I
can do this. So the one movie that has stood out to me the most recently is a film called Camera Person. Now, I know that I criminally use hyperbole more often than not, but this is one of my favorite documentaries that I've ever seen. It is more of a video memoir with little emphasis on narrative. It's directed by Kirsten Johnson, and she sort of cobbles together footage from 25 years of documentary cinematography. She's a cinematographer primarily. And we get an overview of the many cultures that she's interacted with, the people that she's met along the way. It is exactly how I would make a documentary. It's sort of a collage. It isn't driven, like I said, by narrative, point A to point B to point C. It is really about feeling, and it's capturing a sense of the randomness of memories and how you can sort of channel that into an artistic vision, which this film does so beautifully. There are moments and shots in this you'll never forget, things you've never seen before, shocking moments, funny moments, sad moments, just like a beautiful montage of sorts. But you get some scenes are very short, some scenes are very long. So I mean, it's literally all over the map. Like, she goes everywhere, Bosnia, Chicago, everywhere. So that's all I know. Those are the only two cities I know in the whole world. But no, she is a remarkable talent, and it made me think about all the raw footage that probably exists out there from shooting documentaries, and how can you turn that into a movie in of itself? And she kind of does that with 25 films she's been involved with here. And it's almost like Holy Motors in a way, where you have to jump around from emotion to emotion, story to story. There's a musical moment, there's a really sad moment involving death, there's a really uplifting moment. So it is just remarkable. It's also like one of those movies where I want to put every frame on my wall. So I would put this up there as one of my favorite film-going experiences that I've had in a long time. I saw this at the Music Box in an empty theater, the small theater, the small one, of course, but it was just remarkable and very intimate and sad, but also invigorating. It's like a photo album of memories, and I don't know if anything's going to top it, but I just couldn't believe what I was seeing for this entire film. So that's called Camera Person, and I hope you all get to check that out very soon. I'm looking at you, sir. If you can get to the Music Box. I know you're a dad, but...
Yeah, but that small theater is kind of creepy.
Yeah.
You expect there to be like some sleazy sex show in it.
I wasn't thinking that the first time I went there.
Well, they have those small seats. All the interior lighting is red. It's they have those Roman figures painted on that, and yeah.
I was a little scared being there by myself, but
Yeah, except for that one guy in the overcoat, sitting in the back row.
Yeah. No.
He's always there.
Oh, God. I guess I'll take Sybil Shepherd on a date there at some point.
Well, as well you should.
I hope so.
Yeah, I saw Camera Person played at the Milwaukee Film Festival. I regret not seeing it there, but I've heard nothing but good things about it.
Well, I'm definitely going to be trying to score an interview with this director. And because I don't know, she probably has like a million stories to tell as a result of all these. Because some of them, they list all the movies she's been involved with during the closing credits, of course, and some of them have yet to be released. Some of them are very old, some of them are brand new that have come out this year. So it's just like, it's an experience. It's something else. I wonder if Jay's seen it, because I'd be curious to get his take on it. But anyway, Camera Person. Anything else, guys, before we move on? Because we got one hell of a director to talk about.
Yeah, I'll just throw in, I saw The Fits recently as part of the Milwaukee Film Festival, and I think that's something you want to check out before the end of the year. I can just leave it at that, because I know we've got a lot to cover with our director.
Certainly. I know that might be on demand now, I think. Possibly. So I'm going to look into that one for sure.
My motivation is to change the course of Western music. I haven't liked the way it's been going, so I decided I'd make another record. Can I give all these people the finger?
Get People, great movie. The Leopard Man and Days of Glory. Nightfall, I walked with a zombie toenail. Jacques Tourneur, French director with a big vision, made low-budget films with great precision. Holy crap, out of the past, Robert Mitchum and Kirk Douglas, they're both so bitchin'. I love to watch Cat People. Let's rewatch Cat People. First jump scare is in Cat People Toenail. You've got a friend in me, Jacques Tourneur.
Which director are we talking about again?
Jackie Turner.
That's right. Good old Jackie Treehorn. Okay. So, wow. What a filmography. I know he said everything must come from the inside and it mustn't be superficial. He was not a fan of realism. He felt that it had no place in cinema, which I would argue certainly, but he is one of a kind, and we have a large variety of films to talk about. But I think it all kind of started with his father, who I haven't seen any of his films, but I think they're all silent films, if I'm not mistaken. So it started with, I forgot his name already.
Maurice Tourneur.
Thank you. And that sort of ignited his interest in filmmaking, of course. But he really, the one thing that always stands out for me is this expressionistic lighting throughout his filmography. I certainly respond greatly to his string of horror films that started out, or you can call them horror films, but psychological horror films, however you want to put them. But we'll get to it later on. But his entry into the film noir genre is remarkable, in my opinion. So, let's just sort of talk about our first experiences too. What was your first experience, Nat, seeing a Jacques Tourneur film?
I'm trying to think. I think it was probably Out of the Past was the first one that I saw, and it really wasn't too long ago. But having seen that and having seen many of Turner's subsequent films or other films subsequent to that, I think one thing I really, really admire about him is he's very, very good at crafting, shooting very memorable characters, whether it's and that sounds a little bit generic, but whether it's a protagonist or whether it's a supporting character, there's always some line of dialogue or some way in which they're framed or some exchange that they have that just kind of, I guess, not necessarily makes you identify with them, but think of them as a real person. And Out of the Past, I think, is a great example of that. The beginning shot of that, where The
Yeah.
quote-unquote hitman is pulling up to the gas station, and he's having the dialogue with the kid, and not realizing that the kid's deaf. Mm-hmm. And then that whole exchange goes by, and you kind of realize, oh, well, this kid can't actually hear. And then the guy proceeds to continually be a dick to him, and you immediately have sympathy for the kid. And that's all within the span of maybe a minute. Like, I think he's really, really good at doing that. And there are other characters that we can get into as we get to subsequent films, but he's just a guy I think is very, very good at immediately drawing you into the world of his movies, regardless of what the context is, whether it's a world similar to ours or one very different from ours. He just finds a human element, I think, in a lot of his characters, and is really, really good at bringing them out.
Yeah, a lot of his world building feels very real, despite him not necessarily being a fan of realism. He manages to make his characters very human in complex ways, and I would agree with that wholeheartedly. And he also was one of the first filmmakers early on that refused to sort of embrace stereotypes or caricature African Americans. He didn't want to depict them as, servants all the time. He wanted to give them professions and have them speak normally without it being like for comic effect or just... He didn't want to do that to any of his characters. So he really took a lot of care and attention and compassion into all of the films that he's made. And Stars of My Crown in particular, the way that film ends, was not unlike Roger Corman's The Intruder in expressing a lot of rage towards those who are prejudiced. So I found that to be really refreshing to discover too. Robert, how about you? What was your first experience, and how do you feel about him as a whole?
Okay. Well, my first experience is probably traces back to the 70s when I was in grade school, and I would pour through the library and all these horror film books that they would have in the library and look at the pictures. There's a book called Monsters from the Movies by Thomas G. Aylesworth that I still have a copy of to this day.
Nice.
One of the things that stood out to me is the picture with Francis D. leading the planter's wife by the goat hanging in the tree, and I walked with a zombie, and that's certainly a image that has haunted my brain ever since.
Sure.
Just beautiful and striking, and not something that other horror films really deliver. First movie of his I saw was probably about when I was about 12 or so, just a rainy Saturday afternoon, turned on Shock Theater in Milwaukee, and they were playing Curse of the Demon there, and I got completely sucked into that, the shadowy world that it was, and it really created an impression on me, just a scary but smart balanced film, trying to balance skepticism with superstition, and doing one hell of a job with it. Making just walking that line between rationality and irrationality, and I thought it was a great film, and I still think that to this day. Agreed.
So I know he started out making some short films, and I didn't catch his debut film. But I would say that he hooked up with a particular individual by the name of Val Lewton and went on to make a remarkable film in the horror genre that most people are very aware of, but we'd be remiss in not talking a little bit about. Cat People.
Unfortunately, I can't get my cats to hiss on cue.
Well, that is exactly why they have sound effects, CDs, and obviously clips now. But I know what to do. I'll work some magic in there. Yeah, I hadn't seen the original Cat People until a couple of years ago, actually, and I was like blown away by pretty much everything about the film. I will say it's leisurely paced, but I think that works to its advantage. And I think most people sort of cite this as containing one of the very first, if not the first, jump scares involving the bus. And I think the sound design throughout that, he's really good at stalking sequences.
Yes.
I've realized. When you binge watch his films, you're like, whoa, he knows how to do that very effectively and not always have accompanying music to underscore what's taking place. It really is about the sound design. And the sound of that cat roar with the bus coming is just one of my favorite moments in film history, period. And I could see why it sort of led to this sort of aping it in a lot of horror films. So it makes complete sense that because it was so effective early on, and it still is effective to this day, that a lot of horror filmmakers cite that as being a really memorable moment in film history. But I love the subtext, of course, and just how he manages to capture this world in a very subtle manner. It's not necessarily like everything is not spelt out for you like it is kind of in Paul Schrader's crazy remake. So which I happen to have a soft spot for regardless, but this is clearly the superior Cat People.
If you see only one Cat People movie in your life.
See,
well, she does.
Sleepwalkers by Stephen King.
Oh God, no! Isn't it? Well, that's the one where like their weakness is cats, right?
Yeah. I think the cats kick ass towards the end, though.
I think they do.
Yeah.
But I think she does go into the history of like the whole Serbian village that she grew up in and how they fought against that. It's a really interesting film, and I like that stalking sequence in itself is an interesting sequence because it kind of, you're seeing it on two different levels there. Like, on one, and the most obvious one that you can get from any context, just by watching a clip of the scene, is, the not quite girlfriend of the main character is walking home and doesn't know if the actual wife of her coworker is stalking her, like as a cat, and will attack her. But it's also like that scene where, like, you as the audience, you've heard all this backstory, you know all this, but you actually have sympathy for Simone's character, like in that movie. Like, I mean, her whole Serbian village, and like her whole reticence, and it's she's not the one who initiates any of the affection or courtship or anything like that. Yeah. Like, she's being very guarded, and she's being drawn out into like this role that she knows is going to be dangerous. So, on the one hand, like, you fear for one character's life, but then on the other, you kind of feel fear for the stalker's soul, and that's something I don't think you quite get until you can't get that just by watching the clip of that scene, and you get that by watching the movie, and it's a really interesting way that, like, that entire dynamic is set up. It's not a cheap scare. It's like There are many, many stakes to that one scene.
Yeah. No, it sort of crescendos into that, and very beautifully. I think one thing that connects, especially the first three films, the power of suggestion. And to some degree, because like, the way her transformation is introduced too, I just assumed like she has to be intimate or kiss another man for her to transform. But she's stalking this woman, and apparently she transforms both there and when she's at the pool, if I'm not mistaken, just through feeling like an overwhelming emotion. Jealousy, anger, however you want to put it. So, yeah, I just find that whole just metaphor in of itself, like just your animalistic urges coming out when you're feeling vulnerable or something along those lines. It's really, really powerful.
Yeah, and we all kind of hope that she actually breaks through her repression.
Yeah.
That's part of the trick of the film, is that we're both rooting for Simone's Irina and being frightened by her and what she can do when she becomes. We don't want her to fall, but we also kind of want the scares to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think this is quite possibly the first horror film that is really pitched almost exclusively for adults. I don't know if children would get much out of it. I mean, maybe some of the basic ideas of a woman transferring into a panther would excite some ideas, but it's all suggestion. So I think this is one where you need to know what it is to have a relationship between a man and a woman, and to understand Freud and psychological repression. And I think that's the thing that makes Cat People stand out from its time. And It's also a radical break in style from the Universal films of the period, which were all strongly lit, and a good focus would be on the faces of the monsters. And here, these characters, you might not even see their faces; they'd be in the shadows or half in the shadows at all times. So it's both a wonderful break in content and it's a wonderful break in form, and it creates a new style that I think we still see to this day.
Yeah, I mean, you think of like the Wolfman films, like where they would probably be the closest corollary in terms of monster movies to this. And like you said, it would be a close up of if it's Werewolf of London or just the Wolfman. It is an emphasis on the special effects, and you're wondering, how did they do that transformation? Here, they don't even bother with the transformation.
Right.
It's all
done in shadow.
Yeah. Like
it's more effective that way too.
The pool scene is great too, because you see you're not even sure what happens until you see a little bit of confirmation. Like you see the shadow, but then you get the confirmation of like her tearing up the jacket. Mm-hmm. And even then, it could just be like, I got my pair of cat scissors and cut it up or what have you. But it's also like at that point, Simone's arc in this is just really interesting too, going from like very, very quiet and reserved to becoming basically like the antagonist, and a pretty vicious one in the process too. There is a complexity there that I don't think you would necessarily get in similar monster movies. And like the Wolfman 2 is kind of like exploring sexual urges, but I don't think on the level or depth that Cat People gets to. Yeah,
and I just like how a lot of it plays out in your imagination more than... obviously I love gore and stuff like Werewolf in London where you see the amazing special effects too, but there is just something... using your imagination in those moments is even more effective. And I also, what really stood out is like visual flourishes and certain like barriers that he focused on, like obviously the caged animal, the caged bars, certain furniture, fences and doors representing like the dividing line between human and animal. And he's so good at doing these things without calling attention to them necessarily, but I was watching this again kind of going, this is really the birth of the intellectual horror film in a way, where you sort of think of so many things afterwards after going through this experience. And like you mentioned, Nat, you do feel a lot of empathy for her, despite knowing what she is and the kind of damage she's going to cause. Poor psychiatrist.
Well, and her knowing the kind of damage that she can cause, too.
Yeah, she has self-awareness, which is important to distinguish from other sort of monster movies, too.
Well, and even in great little supporting character moments where they go to the restaurant and the waitress comes up and is pushing the chicken gumbo. And it's like, no, I'll just have the coffee. And then she just walks.
Likes chicken gumbo.
She just walks back to the kitchen. Lord, ain't no one ordering no chicken gumbo today. Like there is no reason. There is no reason to show that, and there's absolutely no other director who would show that. But it's again like a really great way of world building. Like these are real people. This is his routine. He's been to this cafe 1,000 times, and it goes so far to making that world believable.
Yeah, it creates a world outside the frame.
Exactly. Yeah. And I just, I look forward to rewatching this more and more over time. And, for those who haven't seen it, please do, because it's a remarkable, sort of monumental film for that era.
Yeah. And it's an urban film. I think it stands out because most horror films of the period, not all, but most, are you travel to a faraway country, go to this weird castle. But this one, the horror is, well, it's right in the bedroom, actually.
Well then.
my, Robin.
Oh, my.
Although I guess it originates in Serbia or in a far-off land. But still, you don't get like the exotic traversing through, wherever they are in Werewolf in London, or to some Transylvanian countryside.
Or the big German expressionistic sets of Frankenstein, or go off to Egypt for the Mummy, or you've off to England for whatever.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's like the threat's already here. It's a very Donald Trump-esque movie.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
They're coming in, cat people, by the trillions, coming in from Serbia.
I would think that's more the zombie movie, but
Well,
yeah, I can
But
see
I mean, it is that done during World War II. They were fleeing the horror in Europe. So if the horror in Europe comes to America, I guess that would strike a chord in the time. That maybe it doesn't quite strike the same chord today, but it's still there.
Oh yeah,
And of course, with the men off to war, you had to be selling the movie to the female audience that's at home. So maybe you have a female protagonist the way you don't have previously.
Yeah.
good point, sir.
Well, now, okay, one question.
Uh-oh.
How the hell does she afford that place? Because she lives in basically a mansion.
Yeah.
And
That's
she's
good
a
point.
commercial artist, but...
Well, I mean, maybe a commercial artist was valued a lot more back then.
maybe.
You know?
Maybe.
Possible.
But I can tell you, she draws really, really fast. Because that last scribble, before they show what it actually is, she makes about 2 strokes with her pencil. And when they showed the close-up of it with the panther with its sword through its chest, she moves fast like a cat.
Oh, yeah. Well, anything to do with cats, I'm on board for.
Yeah. My understanding is that set was left over from Magnificent Ambersons.
That's right.
Ah.
Yes.
Is that the staircase where they have the... Okay. Mm-hmm. I thought it looked a little familiar.
Yeah.
Wait, what year was Cat People? 43?
43.
Okay, because
I think it's
Ambersons
43.
was 42.
I think it's 43.
So it may have predated the use of in Ambersons, but no, if it's 43, I
Well-
think it is 43.
When they shoot it and when it came out,
Yeah.
too. Because Magnificent Citizen Kane sat on the shelf for a while while they fought with Hearst, and then they did Magnificent Ambersons, and then Wells went off to South America before it was released, so... it might have came out before Magnificent Ambersons, but shot after it.
Oh, but the Cat People have been around for thousands of years, generations upon generations.
They could still be here right now. Yeah. A side note, will we ever see the director's cut of Magnificent Ambersons, or is that footage completely gone?
As far as I know, it's completely gone until it gets found somewhere in a vault or some Brazilian whorehouse. Because that's always how it happens.
Mental asylum somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, let's move on, shall we, to the next film, which could be, Hillary Clinton must love the title of this one. I Walk with a Zombie. Hey-o!
I thought you were going to say The Leopard Man.
That's true. You can go, either title, I suppose. But I'm just trying to be politically relevant at the time for right now.
Which will immediately date us.
Go vote. This is a pretty special film too. I mean, I like all 3 of the ones we're about to talk about to varying degrees, and this one again just really focuses on atmosphere over narrative and does it very, very well. We sort of mentioned about the cultural jump that occurs here, where you have somebody going off and discovering a whole other world, and it's very interesting in terms of sort of bringing the zombie tropes to, again, a more psychological, immediate human level. But yeah, I hadn't seen this one until just last year as well. And, it sort of made me realize, along with a lot of Val Lewton's films that he's produced, that this is just totally up my alley when it's about, again, atmosphere over anything else.
Yeah, I think Jackie Turner he's really good with jungles.
Yeah.
He's really, really good. And probably because so much of it is just everything is hidden in the jungle. Mm-hmm. And so threats can come from anywhere. But I think, the very basic bare bones plot of this is Jane Eyre. And I enjoy it so much more than the actual novel Jane Eyre or any adaptations.
This is better than Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
I'll take your word for that.
I haven't seen it. I just assumed.
Well.
Surprised they haven't
Probably a
done
safe
Jane Eyre.
assumption.
Yeah, I think that is a safe assumption. But even this one too, it's not straightforward at all. It's not like the Haitians are a bunch of mindless natives. They have their own culture. The the whites have their own culture, and there's this weird synthesis that kind of like, or feeding off of one person's culture, or picking and choosing and taking elements from that for either person's individual game. But they're, the natives aren't treated like savages. They're actually like pretty civilized people, and there's really not that much difference in some of their beliefs. As they they have the huge statue of which saint is that?
Saint Sebastian.
Saint Sebastian. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean something like that is just as savage an artifact as anything that you would see that you do see with like voodoo dolls or what have you. I think there are like a lot of parallels that he's drawing here, and even like kind of the final revelation of who's working with the voodoo practitioners. Mm-hmm. And I imagine too, it's probably at that time the most accurate depiction of what voodoo actually is. Again, for that time,
it's certainly less cartoony than The Serpent and the Rainbow, which a lot of people. I mean, I like that movie, but a lot of people sort of criticize Craven's depiction of that culture.
Mm-hmm. And certainly much more accurate than White Zombie or the natives from King Kong.
Yeah,
these are treated much more with respect here, and music is much a part of their culture as anything else, and they certainly play it up in the sound design of the film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of my favorite moments involves the two women dressed in white walking through like a field of sugarcane in the dark towards the voodoo ceremony with like the drums in the background. Like that is really another powerful scene that you sort of take away from the film. And you're right in that it's not straightforward, and it doesn't really have like a forward propelling plot, but it still manages to capture you in a very hypnotic way.
Yeah, it's very much a Twilight set film. I think you can really see Jacques Tourneur's powers of visually directing come out. I mean, my understanding is the sets are very small, but he manages to create a whole sugarcane field for people in a jungle for people to walk through. He puts things in the foreground, so you obscure the people walking through it, and he dollies along it, and the foreground, middle ground, and background, and all of that will come into play at some point, or he'll just have somebody standing off in the background. I think Val Lewton's impact on the script is also very important. It's not just that it's an island; it's an island where slavery was once the ideal, and they're still kind of haunted by that. That's kind of the original sin that's kind of driving the story along, because you have the rich planters that once profited off of it, and they seem like decent people now, but they certainly are reckoning with the sins of the past. Some of them more literal than others, but
kind of like the Native American burial ground kind of trope that we'd see in a lot of ghost movies. Mm-hmm. But it's something else. Again, I mean, like I think of towards the end, the sight of the the figure on the wall, in the shadow. It's just like there's so many moments like that throughout his films that I just kind of go, wow, that's no, you can't top that. You can't. I mean, you can certainly find many other examples of that in different films. Like what Orson Welles did, of course, in Citizen Kane. But there's just certain moments that really stand out, and images you'll never forget.
Yeah, and I would say even at the very beginning, it starts out with Tom Conway giving the great speech on the boat.
Yeah.
About there's nothing here but death, no beauty. I think obviously that's a very Luton sentiment, but. Sure. Just the way the whole scene is set up, it does look beautiful, and you do have the workers on the boat singing a song or humming along to create an atmosphere, and then when Tom Conway breaks the spell, it really is kind of a slap in the face both to the heroine of the film and to the audience. Mm-hmm. I mean, it takes a while for the scares to come.
Yeah, no, that's true.
But I'm drawn into the story ahead of time because I like the people. I think top to bottom, I think the cast is stronger in I Walk to a Zombie than it is in Cat People. Mm-hmm. The main character, Kent Smith or Kent. The Oliver Reed named character in in Cat People, I think kind of fades in importance. Well, I think they get the triangle very right in I Walk with a Zombie because both the brothers are very prominent, and I think they're interesting characters in their own right. I like the Frances D as the nurse. I think is a very active character. She's not a passive heroine that needs to be rescued. She's actually trying to impact and move the plot. I mean, this film does pass the Bechdel test.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I don't know how many horror films of the period you can say that do that.
That's true. No, it really just captures the essence of fear, really. And, that comes also with, just the emotional state that the characters find themselves in, and they're sort of drawn into what is happening, but also, am I going to be confronted with all my internal fears, and what's going to become of that? So it's, again, more suggestive than anything else. So it does play on a subconscious level, which I really appreciate more than, loud noises and, things jumping out at you. So disappointed that a cat didn't jump out during Cat People. But anyway.
Well, and another, I think, similarity with Cat People, although maybe more with some other films of it, is that you have that supernatural element, and then there's an attempt or an investigation into that, and some rationalization of that, or at least like kind of learning more in depth, or like a history of it, instead of just treating it as purely supernatural, like kind of understanding some of the impetus, at least, behind it, or how it is used. And in terms of casting, the voodoo dancer priest, I'm not entirely sure, but the guy who's pulling the invisible rope, yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's any trick to it, but like those things are pretty hypnotic, like just the dance moves and how it's shot, and like the entire ceremony is very hypnotic.
Yeah, I like the two women that end their dance off kind of head to head.
Yeah,
I think that's a real nice statement, and I mean, I think there's nice characters work throughout it. I kind of like the Calypso singer Sir Lancelot, who gives probably the neatest bit of exposition you'll ever see, or most unique. And he kind of says he's sorry, but he comes back later, so you can tell he's not really sorry.
Or just like the stabbing, which is pretty suspenseful, and like it's not gory at all, but like you're pretty apprehensive about what's going to happen, like what they're actually going to do.
Yeah, and you know what noise now that I don't necessarily find creepy, just rather jarring and kind of annoying? Castanets. I can't really imitate them, but I'll insert the sound in case people aren't aware of what they are. I would think they know. But that leads us to the next film. Leopard Man. Okay. Now I thought of the Pearl Jam song. Oh man, I just thought of a parody song off the top of my head.
Or
Better Man.
Or Rocket Man.
Yeah.
Leopard Man to the tune of Rocket Man.
That's good. That's good too. So yeah, this oddly, it's a little bit of a murder mystery, I guess. But I mean, people, all think, well, it's got to be that escaped leopard that's causing all this. But I think it's also an example of kind of a slasher film in a way.
Yeah,
I know Mario Bava sort of, he's been dubbed the Godfather of the slasher with
Black Sunday,
Blood and Black Lace.
No,
Bloody Sunday,
the one that's like got the Friday the 13th kills.
Bay of
Black
Blood.
Lily of the
Yeah, Bay of Blood. That's it. And it also has an alternate title. But yeah,
Twitch of the Death Nerve.
Yes, Twitch of the Death Nerve. Thank you.
Go.
My God, my brain. That's probably because I watched so many damn movies I can't remember them all anymore.
Blood of the Black Rain.
Oh, yeah. God, I gotta watch some Bava this month, too. Anyway, but I really got into this movie despite kind of figuring out what was going to happen by the end. I wouldn't say I guessed like who the killer was, but I have an affinity. It's probably also why I don't mind the Scream movies for a whodunit. And this kind of takes that form mixed with a slasher, and it starts off with a woman dancing and having to confront her fear, essentially with this giant leopard that she has to take in with her, and then it escapes, and then people are freaking out, and there's all these murders taking place, and there are some jump scares to be had. But I think it culminates into a very interesting catharsis of violence that's played off screen, but we still hear it. And I don't know. I just think, again, another very effective horror stalker kind of a film.
I think this has another great stalking sequence in it too, which I think is the initial.
Is it the cemetery one?
Not the cemetery one. The one before that. The initial
Under the bridge.
Kill.
Oh,
Under the bridge.
Yeah.
Where you want. This one does have some funny moments in it too, but for this one, it's how damn far away is this grocery store? Like, where the daughter goes out, she's scared because there's always been rumors of the leopard escaping, because the leopard escaped in one of the greatest "what did you think was going to happen" moments of all time. But but the daughter's pleading with her mother not to go to the grocery store because she doesn't want to get attacked by the leopard. The mother's like, just get the hell out of here. And it looks like she travels like 20 miles by foot and through wilderness and all through the bad parts of town, like broken down bridges and all that. But she travels there. She actually does make it to the store. And then she has a great little exchange with the storekeeper. And, okay, well, put it on my tab, which is always one of my favorite little tropes of, like, I'm going to be back in here. So, but of course, they won't be. And then she gets attacked, like, right at the very end. But he keeps the suspense going. Like, that entire stalking sequence goes on for so much longer than you think it would go, and certainly longer than most stalking sequences you would normally see. I mean, he waits until the very last minute, and then when it happens, like, it's a brutal kill too.
Pretty shocking.
Spoiler for the leopard man, but it's a brutal kill. In again, you hear it happen, and the only evidence you see of it is the blood coming from under the door.
Right.
I mean, it's a perfect way.
Yeah, I'm terrified to buy a bag of cornmeal now.
Yeah,
after
exactly.
Seeing this movie. It's like Jaws kept you out of the water, Psycho kept you out of the shower. This is going to keep me from buying a bag of cornmeal.
Yeah. You'll never go to Jewel Osco for cornmeal.
Yeah, the set pieces are definitely the strength of the Leopard Man. Obviously the first leopard kill. I think the kill in the cemetery is also very well done, and that's
the shot
certainly
of the moon.
and that's certainly a very Luton touch to have a murder scene in a cemetery surrounded by death. The last one I think is still pretty good with Clo is her name on the street.
Right. Yep. The entire movie is almost like a stalking sequence with her character too, because she's going to die at some point.
But I mean, I think one of the things they do very well in the film is that each of these victims get a bit of characterization involved.
For sure.
We find some of their hopes and dreams. Maybe not so much with the little girl, but certainly with the young woman who's on the verge of being a woman and trying to meet her boyfriend. And Clo we see wants to get out of this small town. So I think they give all of these that they're a sense of loss when they exit the film, that there's a promise that's unfulfilled with their lives. I think that all of that is very strong. Mystery, not so much. I think the mystery kind of weak, doesn't have many suspects.
It's not like a wow kind of a moment when you find out who the killer is.
No, and thematically, I don't think it's Luton's strongest either. I mean, there's forces pushing us that we can't see. I guess death surrounds us is a typical Luton one, but I mean the main characters I don't think are very interesting. I think they have a hard shell, but they're really nice people on the inside. It needs to be cracked. It doesn't do a whole lot for me. They're just not that interesting.
Yeah.
But as far as delivering effective set pieces, I think it's great. And I do think it's interesting that it's set in, New Mexico, but we certainly have very many Latino characters here.
True.
So, I Walk with a Zombie with descendants of slaves, African descendants, and we have an ethnic film in sorts in it. So I think that's a very interesting touch. And, of course, Jacques Tourneur treats all the characters with respect.
Yeah, he puts them all in equal playing ground.
I do feel like the museum curator is he just seems like such a jerk too. Yeah. When there's the initial kill and they're asking him like, oh well, could a leopard do this? Oh yeah, sure. And then like 2 minutes later, he's like, well, you said a leopard could do this. Well, I said a leopard might do that. Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, like I also do like the leopard's actual handler.
Right.
Where he's constantly hounding him for the $240 that he owes him, and he was an extremely friendly leopard, and that I don't have the leopard, I don't have an act.
You got a very curious leopard right there.
you get to see the act without the leopard too, which is terrific. Mm-hmm. This also has maybe my second favorite, maybe my favorite extra line with the flower dealer. Where she's walking up trying to get the day-old flowers, saying, "Oh, you can't sell these; they're a day old." And he says, "Oh, I have to sell all of them because I have to eat, and I love to eat."
There's definitely moments of levity. That's what I like too. Mm-hmm. When you insert those at the appropriate times, but then you have these incredible stalking sequences, and like the very last one with like the cigarette too is really. Mm-hmm. Effective.
Yeah, I also like the procession, the dead that they have out there. Right. I think that's
good. Yeah,
that's a very nice set piece they have there, and
definitely
it's both moody and it's effective. If you could try to hide in there, so I think it works on all levels.
I liked how he tries to hide in the crowd.
This is before Mr. Arcaden too, isn't it?
Yeah, over a decade before.
Yeah, so Wells was just ripping off left and right. Yeah, and that's kind of a grisly way, like a pretty cold-blooded way of getting rid of the murderer, too. Where he escapes, and then they just kind of like, all right, like gang up on him, and no trial, just...
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the whole setup they have with him as well, just like scaring him out and turning the tables and trapping the cat, so to speak. But, yeah, I don't think it's quite as strong as Cat People, like you said, Robert. But I think this one definitely is a good Halloween scare.
Yeah, I kept waiting for somebody to say once they found the cat's in the bag.
And it's a nice, efficient 66 minutes.
Yeah, all of these are.
That's something I think also lends to rewatches, and especially if you have a busy schedule like some people. It's nice knowing, I got 80-minute movies to watch tonight. That's good.
Mm-hmm. And this one is well structured because they put off the scares in I Walk with a Zombie and Cat People to the second half for the most part.
Sure.
While this one, you have the girl under the bridge scene pretty much within the first 15 minutes. So you're not waiting around. It's a very efficient, good thriller that way.
Indeed.
You get the nice glowing eyes under the bridge, too.
All right.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. I didn't know Peter Fonda was going to show up and be a guest. That's great.
Well, yeah, that asshole goes up and down our drive all the time. So you see, Robert, this is what we normally hear when this is what you can put a louder sound to it.
The mysteries are revealed. Okay.
Normally get that out.
Yeah.
Okay, so, the studio separated Luton and Tourneur in 1943, 44, I think. And I think they wound up successfully putting together films of their own in their own right, I guess you could say. But one in particular, spoiler alert, that happens to be my favorite, is up next. It's a film noir by the name of Out of the Past.
There are many great practitioners of noir. There are many great, I guess, quote unquote, master filmmakers who can deliver very strong genre performances or other genre films. I think Tourneur is able to kind of like stay to the conventions and yet kind of go beyond in crafting something that's a little extra. And I think Out of the Past, it has all those noir elements. Like it has the femme fatale, it has the very strange and meandering or complex plot. It has double crosses, backstabs, and
flashbacks.
The hard-boiled detective. It has like that idyllic country life that's disrupted by something prior to that. And I think that it again, I think is a completely believable characters, if not believable world, like at least in its own context, and part of that I think is casting too. Like Robert De Niro is the perfect choice for this sort of thing.
You mean Robert Mitchum?
Robert Mitchum, Jesus Christ! Sorry about that. Robert Mitchum is the perfect choice for that. Well, they both have those kind of
Cape Fear. You were thinking of Cape Fear.
Exactly. Yeah. I actually watched both Cape Fears earlier this month too. But Mitchum is perfect for it because you never know which side Mitchum is on. And Kirk Douglas is perfect for Sterling because you never know which side Kirk Douglas is on. And, 50s Kirk Douglas, 50s Robert Mitchum, I will take any day of the week. Like, just,
right?
Facial expressions from Douglas and inflections from Mitchum.
Mitchum inflections are the best.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, if I could like cast anybody from any era, it might be Robert Mitchum from this era. If it's like you get your choice of any actor from any period at any time. I just I also thought of like this idea of human interaction as like a textile, where it made me think of the way they talk is very much. It's not as like staccato and stylized as something like David Mamet with House of Games. But just their assuredness in saying really, like, again, hard-boiled detective kind of lines and have them actually have emotional weight to them. Not just be showy, clever lines just to have clever lines or just, insert vulgarities, like what David Mamet would do with Glengarry and Glenn Ross and kind of make it sound like poetry. I think the dialogue... This might be my favorite screenplay of all time because every line is like, oh my, I just want to write down every line and memorize them and talk about them because I just think like especially with Mitchum and Kirk Douglas interacting together, it's just pitch perfect.
Well, and Mitchum is exactly the guy that you get for that.
Yeah.
For lines that can sound like cheesy, he's the one to deliver them authentically. Like and I would plug Farewell My Lovely, the 1970s. Philip Marlowe movie where he is Philip Marlowe.
Crap, I need to see that.
It is fantastic.
I love The Long Goodbye, so I should see more of those.
It's a little bit different, approach to Philip Marlowe.
I'm sure it is.
The Long Goodbye. But yeah, just, he carries all the emotional weight and yet still gets all the wit from the line.
And it's very dry witted, too. I love this movie. Robert, what are your thoughts?
It's a nearly perfect movie. I would say one of the things I like about it is it's basically a story that you can tell that Robert Mitchum is basically doomed from before frame one even starts. Mm-hmm. He does some very clever things to try to wiggle his way out, but it's all to no avail because the fates are conspiring against him, and probably his own heart in some respects is conspiring against him because you tell he's crazy about Jane Greer on at least some level still. Maybe just pure sex appeal at some point, but she's part of him, and he's tainted by her in some way, and there's no really going back to that idyllic country life that he starts it with, no matter how hard he tries. And I think Jacques Tourneur's lighting and camera work just works to that beautifully. He's plunged into darkness again and again, running down halls into darkness. It's really a well-shot film. All the performances are spot on. I can't think of anything I don't like about the film. I mean, maybe I could say that the fight between Mitchum and his former partner is a little bit stagey.
I kind of like it. I think I like it because it's not stage or it is stagey, but it's all, there's no music.
The fishing line death.
It seems like a sloppy fight in a way too.
Yeah,
I mean, it's stagey but sloppy, I guess.
yeah.
Nice balance, I think.
I think those are things where I say, well, it's not perfect, but this is like an A+ film all the way around. And
Pretty much, yeah.
It's a classic. It's probably Tourneur's greatest film. Might not be my favorite, but it's certainly, if I had to say, what is his best, I would say Out of the Past is his best.
I concur 100%.
Man, that's tough. That's really tough because, I mean, this is also a guy who dabbled in so many genres and did all of them so well.
Again, fighting the auteur theory here. Because, I mean, you can find certain elements, especially with the lighting throughout his films, I'd say, like I mentioned.
But I think, I guess there are common elements shared by the themes, but I think he kind of brings up something new and can say something very profound in many different films. And like, you know, is what he's saying in Cat People as profound as sort of what he's saying in Out of the Past. I mean, it's tough, but again, I guess, you know, it's not just Tourneur, it's Mitchum, it's Douglas, it's everything else in there. I think too, like in terms of the screenplay, just his construction, I think is consistently really, really good too. Because, you know, when he goes to Leonard Eels, which is such a great Coen Brothers type name.
Oh yeah, it is.
When he goes to his apartment and he knows he's being set up, you know, it's a bit of a twist because at that point he already knows he's been betrayed. Like, he was betrayed by her in the past, and so, you know, you don't do the plot twist that he's going to be betrayed, but it's a plot twist where he knows he's going to be betrayed, and so he sets the thing up to betray the people who are trying to betray him.
Right.
It's a very clever way of just writing, and I think it keeps things interesting. Otherwise, like, you would immediately figure out what's going to happen. And I think, you know, he's very, very good at keeping you guessing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at the same time, you don't go, why do you do that stupid thing?
Yeah.
You go, oh, that's kind of smart. Mm-hmm. You hope it works out, but you also kind of know it's not going to work out for him.
No, yeah, and I mean, you also, you know, with something like that, you wonder, well, are at least some nice people going to get out alive? And, you know, in terms of supporting characters here, there's the whole, you know, there's the country boy who's in love with his girlfriend, and they set that up. There's his cabbie friend, whom I love. Like, right. You know, there's a lot of sharing of cigarettes in this, which is like, I can't think of another film noir where I've seen two men, like, you know, romantically almost share a cigarette.
Right.
But it's like a, you know, it's like he's giving him water, like a Samaritan giving like someone water when he hands him the cigarette.
Yeah, Kirk Douglas, the first thing he does is offer Mitchum a cigarette, and he already has one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's so good. I mean, little touches like that wouldn't be out of place, like you mentioned in a Coen Brothers movie. It just really stands out here. And I like the way it's set up, too. I actually thought of History of Violence, but it's like a different context, but still it has, like, you know, the somebody coming from out of town into the small town world to retrieve somebody who's betrayed, you know, a large group of people, or Kirk Douglas's posse, I guess. But it's really, it's so rich. I love the narration throughout, and he's telling her this story while driving the car, and the way, just like, I don't know, every touch in this film works for me.
And showing, I guess, you know, similar to what you were saying with Leopard Man, Robert, like, you know, you get insight into the other characters' lives too, so that their deaths have a greater impact. I think in this too, like, we just talked about this Rowan character, but I mean, even if they don't die, you see kind of like the weight or consequences of other characters' actions on them. And even again with his girlfriend, like her parents, and like telling her that he's a bad influence, and just like getting insight to her home life, or again the kid, and like how Mitchum was at least generous enough, or Jeff was at least generous enough to give him a job and kind of take pity on him. And even, to get to his actual death, I think that's another, like, they hold out for as long as they can of actually, like, confirming that he's going to die. So there's still, like, a bit of suspense in what his actual fate is. And even still, like, his wound doesn't seem like it would be lethal.
Yeah. And a lot of the killings kind of take place off screen, but like some of the deaths are very spontaneous. They happen like in a matter of seconds with his former partner, just like the gunshot coming out of nowhere and everything. And then you really get insight into her character. So yeah, I mean, it's not like one of those movies where it's like gimmicky with its twists or whatever. The reveals actually add to the character depth throughout. And I think I just get pure joy out of Kirk Douglas and Robert Mitchum interacting together in the same film, and with such a strong story to tell here.
Yeah, I the ending really sticks with me.
Sure.
I kind of wonder. We see Mitchum dial out and probably tip off the police that they're coming. So you kind of wonder if this is death or suicide by cop, and he's making sure that she gets taken down with him. Kind of wonder, is that's his way of going off with her, that they're joined together in death, or
I think it was actually an homage to Invasion of the Saucer Men and the ending of that film.
But
yeah, it's an interesting point.
That kind of relates to the last question when the girlfriend asked the kid whether Jeff was actually going off with Jane Greer at the end, and he says yes, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe
ambiguity there. Yeah,
maybe it's just what she needs to hear. But maybe that is his way of going off with her, but making sure that nobody else gets hurt in the world.
That's the sense I got.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's very interesting confrontations with death throughout a lot of his films, including the end of Cat People, and just her choice. I mean, was she freeing the panther, essentially, and that's all she wanted to do? Or she just... That sounds gross.
That's a great metaphor.
I'm freeing the panther. Oh, man.
No, but yeah, I mean, they're...
openly accepting death, I guess.
Yeah. Like death, in light of there being far worse things from living.
True. Right.
And real quick, just one more thing on Out of the Past. I love his distraction when she walks into the bar in I forget, in Mexico, but Acapulco.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and his spilling the drink. Yeah, where like they wouldn't notice her. They're like sitting facing the door.
Right.
But it's classic.
Well, you gotta do what you gotta do to distract them, man. Oops. Anyway, yeah, that's a remarkable piece of work, and very quickly I'll get through the next film, which is Stars in My Crown, which is kind of it's definitely an outlier in that it's kind of a family film in a way. It's very ultra serious for the most part. I mean, it does have its humorous moments, but overall, I know this type of film was very popular in the 1940s, where it's really about family dynamics, but it's from the point of view of a small child, and in this case, played by a very young Dean Stockwell. When I first found out that he was in, I was like, "Oh, I wonder who he's going to play." And then I didn't even recognize this kid. I was like, "Oh my god, it's Dean Stockwell!" But it has like the small town feel, combined with the rural setting. But it's really interesting because it has kind of this soap opera-ish tone at times, with a little hint of melodrama, and it's essentially about this priest who's just really good at getting the town riled up, almost like Daniel Plainview. But it's it's a ferocious attack on racism eventually, because the priest really wants people to look past their prejudices in this small town. So that's another reason why I thought of The Intruder, where it's like a reversal of that, because in The Intruder, William Shatner comes into town to fuck things up and to get people riled up and to get people more racist. But in this film, you have an actor, and his name escapes my mind, but he's essentially the lead here, and we get to know him as a little boy, and then eventually graduating into like actually preaching in bars and like just getting people really interconnected in a way. But it's essentially just an all-out sort of commentary on the times and just the small town mentality, I guess you could say. But it has a very sympathetic view towards a Protestant religion, which is very interesting in of itself. I mean, the preacher is essentially the hero of the film and kind of saves the day in the end. But yeah, it's good. It doesn't quite. It's not something I would rewatch as much as the other films we talked about. But in terms of being, kind of a Western, kind of a family drama, kind of a social commentary amalgam, I thought it was really well done. And again, there's a moment where a train kind of arrives out of nowhere. I was like, it's just maybe it was a little tip of the hat to cat people only with a train this time. But yeah, no, it's good. It's not something I would like out and out say you have to see like the other films, but it's good. It's pretty good. And next, we have, I think, a swashbuckler. Nat.
Is this what I think it is?
Yeah.
Okay. This is the one that Robert steadfastly refused to watch. Where when we originally were sharing our lists of the movies that we were going to watch for this, Robert said, "Oh, you should check out this and this one and this one and this one and this one." And I said, "Oh, I saw The Flame in the Arrow. You should check that out." And immediately Robert was like, "No, I'm not watching that."
We can't watch everything.
At least that's how I remember it. But
that one definitely was beyond my time frame.
But
I know it was 89 minutes or something. Right?
Yeah, it's slightly longer, almost feature length.
I did want to see it, especially after Jacques Tourneur said on his interview that's on the Cat People Criterion that it's his favorite film.
Well, there you go.
It's so much fun.
This is such a fantastically fun film. I mean, it doesn't have the depth of some of the other films that we've discussed, but boy, oh boy, Burt Lancaster is he is so joyous in this, and I think this is in color. I think he was a master of using color, especially in this. It's basically Italian Robin Hood. And I think it's very much inspired by Michael Curtiz's Robin Hood. Burt Lancaster is totally playing in the Errol Flynn vein here. And then his sidekick, Piccolo, who I think it's Nick Cravat or something like that. I don't think I've ever heard of him or seen him in any other movie since. And Jim was mentioning to me that he had seen this movie as well. And we were wondering, like, were acrobats like a thing in the early 1950s where you have... Around the World in 80 Days. And I
guess, yeah, this might have been their pinnacle.
Yeah.
I mean, the height of their popularity.
Yeah.
But I couldn't get past how much he was a dead ringer for Vincent Cassel.
Yeah.
I just is a long distance relative of Vincent Cassel? Because it looks like him. Like a shorter version.
Well, and the basic plot of it is that Burt Lancaster is Dardo, who is this mountain hero.
Donnie Dardo.
Dardo, who is very good with a bow. He has his son taken away from him by the evil landowner who also stole Dardo's wife, although she seemed to have gone willingly.
Yeah.
There's a weird, complex relationship there that I don't think they quite fully get into. But anyway, the landowner steals his, or the king or whatever steals his son. At some point, a noble gets fed up with the oppressive taxation and goes off to join Dardo's band. There's a bunch of different, very thrilling raids on the castle, capturing, seducing the Maid Marian type, who's like the niece of the prince. Or I forget the guy's name, or the main antagonist, like his position. But it's basically she's the Maid Marian type, and he's very, very charming.
He's like El Guapo.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Shut up!
And it culminates with Dardo's band dressing up as circus performers and putting on a great circus show for the castle.
Right.
And that in itself culminates in a really fantastic high pole acrobatic act.
Pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of interesting angles, and I guess a lot of different types of shooting that one normally wouldn't expect to see, and hasn't really seen that often since. Like, how does one shoot a circus? How do you get the scope of it to get the other people's reactions of things, and yet still be enough focused on the actual event to kind of convey its impressiveness? And I think he totally does that in this movie.
I would concur 100%. I think as it goes on, I would say that there's like just a little short period of downtime where I'm not as enthused with it, but overall, I don't know if I've ever really gotten huge into the swashbuckler Robin Hood scenarios in general. Maybe it's just because Robin Hood Prince of Thieves was my first experience with a Robin Hood movie that I'm like, I don't really care. I don't think this is my kind of stuff. But no, I still have to see the Michael Curtiz Robin Hood.
Yes, you do.
Yes, I know.
Yes,
I know.
you do.
I know. and Robin and Marian. I know. There's still.
Well, that's not quite swashbuckler. Actually,
no, it's not swashbuckler.
Swashbuckler with Robert Quint.
Robert Shaw.
Robert Shaw and James Earl Jones and Peter Boyle.
Whoa!
It's like 1978. It was on Netflix at some point. I'm not sure if it is now. It's a ridiculously insane movie, but it's a lot of fun.
Kind of like the Comedy of Terrors.
No, it's a lot of fun.
Well, The Flame and the Arrow is a lot of fun as well, and I really enjoyed it quite a bit, and I think it's just that the magnetism of Burt Lancaster's smile. I think he smiles pretty much until he gets shot in the back with an arrow.
Yeah.
And then he's not smiling then.
Well, he's still smiling sometime after that.
Yeah, a little bit.
Well,
because he gets help.
The aristocrat, I think, is wonderful and charming, and,
yes.
and there's a great twist with him. Piccolo, I'm guessing again his great names, Dardo and Piccolo, the further adventures of, that's why they chose The Flame and the Arrow for the title of this one. But
I think we should become a folk duo and just be Dardo and Piccolo.
Yeah.
That'd be a good name.
This is our up-tempo folk song.
Okay. We can look into that.
I think there's a couple of titles potentially between this one and Curse of the Demon or Night of the Demon that I have not seen, if I'm not mistaken. Which others are there between this and that?
Was Nightfall before or after Curse of the Demon?
I want to say it's after, but
maybe it might be the one right after it.
Yeah.
Well, what year is Curse?
Canyon Passage.
Canyon Passage was Tourneur's first Technicolor film in 1946. It's a Western. I mean, right off the bat, you can tell it's a different type of Western. Most of them are set in the Southwest with the dusty, maybe the tumbleweed will blow through town. This one opens in Portland, Oregon, with the rain pouring and it's just muddy all over the place. And I think that's emblematic of just how different a Western it is. It's set up in the mountains and with lakes and rivers. They're all the standard tropes you would expect in a Western. There's a cabin raising. There's
Andy Devine,
Ward Bond.
Yep.
Dana Andrews as this I can do it by myself type hero of the film. Brian Donlevy as a banker that's probably getting cheated out of his money by a local card shark. There's a couple of love triangles going on here.
Really? Wow, that's surprising.
There's Indian tax later on in the film. There's personal vendettas. So it's there's a lot of stuff going on. It's quite episodic, but all the characters in the film are fully fleshed out. You're sympathetic to pretty much everybody except for Ward Bond.
It's Ward Bond.
I mean, even the Indians or Native Americans are treated with respect in this one. I mean, they have a point when they go on the warpath.
Even Andy Devine defends them at some point. Like, as the Haitians are treated in Iowa with the zombie, they actually have a proto-revisionist view of the Indians and actually make the argument we are taking their land, and they have the scene where they show up at the celebration of the house raising, saying you guys just keep encroaching on us. We're gonna keep doing this if you keep building these things.
Yeah, Hoagie Carmichael is in it as a local shopkeeper. Gets to sing several of the songs.
I never realized that Old Buttermilk Sky was written for this movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, and Hoagie Carmichael, and I imagine in this film, or at least at this time, that was the original inspiration for the look of James Bond.
Well, I'll be a monkey's uncle.
Exactly.
Wow.
And he's like the bard in this.
I'm going to put this one on my list of must-sees.
Who conveniently shows up to the house raising after all the work's done.
And after doing a little research too, I really want to see Berlin Express because I think it's the first film that was shot in Germany post World War II.
Yeah, and it's good. Jacques Tourneur shoots the hell out of the film.
I bet.
Lots of shadows everywhere. The rubble is quite striking. It's sort of a proto Third Man, but it doesn't hold a candle to Third Man plot-wise.
Oh, well, yeah. I figured that.
I mean, it's very schematic. Kurt Siedmak wrote the screenplay, so you have an American, a Russian, a Frenchman, a French woman, an Englishman kind of team up to rescue this reformist German. This reformist good German from the Nazi underground that wants to disrupt the rebuilding of Germany. And that's about as complicated as it gets. It's very schematic, and I think that's part of the joy of the film is it's schematic. We watch all these people team up again while Cold War tensions are going on, but it's there's nothing plot wise is very 1, 2, 3. It's nothing you haven't seen, nothing you can't guess. There's a traitor in the mix, and I won't spoil it, but let's say there's a redundant nationality there.
I think.
But I mean, as far as well shot films, it looks great.
I think also, I
accidentally jumped around. I just realized.
No, that's fine. I was just going to say I can jump in with Anne of the Indies real quick.
Sure.
Another fun swashbuckler. It's based on what is it? I think Anne Hutchinson. They don't really use her last name.
Damn you, Peter Fonda.
Anne Hutchinson, I don't think they use her last name, but she's the female pirate working in the same time as Blackbeard, and Blackbeard actually shows up, not played by Robert Newton, but still, oily and red-nosed. But it's a fun little, almost like swashbuckling espionage film. Jean Peters is the main character.
Future wife of Howard Hughes, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe.
I think so.
Okay. When she's trying to act authoritative, I'm not quite sure if it works that much. She's a little bit over the top, but yeah, still a very fun and brisk movie with a really neat twist. And I think also before Curse of the Demon, Night of the Demon, what have you of the Demon, there's also Appointment in Honduras, which I think both of Robert and I have seen. Mm-hmm. If you want
to, basically it's a jungle adventure. Glenn Ford needs to get to the capital of Honduras with some money for arms for, I guess, the good government.
Yeah.
And he kind of ends up kidnapping a industrialist and his wife and convincing a bunch of kind of convicts that are on the ship to kind of mutiny and take him there, and then he has to guide them up the river. And there are adventures along the way.
Yeah, like kind of a Treasure of the Sierra Madre meets the African Queen meets King Solomon's Mines.
Wow.
Not quite as good as any of those films.
But I'm still on board.
But I think it's still quite a bit of fun and really good animal acts in there. If Frank Konejik is listening,
There's tigerfish.
Yeah, tigerfish.
Wow.
Just say piranha, damn it. Say piranha.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of ambiguity about Glenn Ford's character,
Yes.
whether he's a good guy or not, and they play that up quite a bit, so it keeps your interest. And there's a love triangle going on, because apparently the industrialist and his wife are not on the best of terms.
Yeah.
And Glenn Ford is a hunk of man, I think would probably be the way to put it.
I think that's fair to
Hunk
say.
of man, yeah.
Big hunk of man. Yeah, some of these interesting love triangles, too, where it's a married woman who's kind of falling for a scoundrel. Another great line from this movie is, that man you just killed was my cousin. Well, if you want to get some too, I'm more than happy. Well, he wasn't that smart anyway. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Mm-hmm. I also saw Experiment Perilous, which I believe is the first film he did post Luton.
Oh, right, okay.
Which is a gaslight type thriller with Hetty, not Hedley Lamar.
Nice.
I think it's pretty good.
Okay.
I mean, it is very much a 1940s film, but I think Tourneur's attention to detail and ambiguity is very good. The so-called hero of the film is called out and asked if he would actually do it if she didn't look like she did, and he kind of wonders maybe you have a point there, but he still goes on and does the right thing. He sticks his nose in. I mean, you know who the villain is off the top. If you've ever seen Gaslight or know what Gaslight is, you know how this thing is going to work out. But there's it's really nicely shot. It's an intelligent film. There's a great shot at the end, at the climax. There's a fire going on, and there's all these aquariums which all kind of burst at once.
Ooh.
And so I mean, it's a good film. It's not as good as the Luton films he did, but I think it's well worth checking out.
It starts out on a train trip. I'm on board. Get it?
Yes.
Okay. No, I just mean, I think it was around watching Lady Vanishes for the second time. I was like, I think I just love all movies that take place on trains.
Murder on the Orient Express.
Sure. Even Silver Streak. It's not great, but I still like it. I don't know, man. And
Berlin Express you have going for you, too.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. But yeah, I think it's similar to the revelation that Patrick likes all movies that take place on a submarine. I happen to love movies on trains.
That's like obvious.
U571.
Yeah, not quite as large of a
K9 the
selection.
Widowmaker. K9T the Widowmaker.
I don't know if he likes that one. I don't know if anybody likes that one. I don't know if
I'm
anybody
sure
likes
there's
Rush.
the effective scenes where they're all sitting around looking at gauges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard many people say that that's their favorite part.
It's better than Harrison Ford's accent, his Russian accent in that movie.
What about Sean Connery's Russian?
Wow.
I come from the Scottish part of Russia. I think there were a couple more before Curse of the Demon or Night of the Demon, but do we want to just jump to...
Yeah, I think we probably should. Let's do this. Night, Curse, something of the Demon.
If you're in England, it's Night of the Demon. If you're in America, it's Curse of the Demon.
Okay.
Thank you. Because they figured curses don't sell that well in England, and nights don't sell that well.
They figured Curse of Frankenstein was a big hit, so Curse of the Demon will be a big hit in America.
And you at home listening can't see this, but Robert just made an excellent demonstration of what he was talking about with his cane by moving it, pulling it back slightly to indicate differences between the U.S. and the U.K.
I'm pretty sure French fries are called chips in the UK.
Yes, and chips are called crisps.
Oh, very good. Okay. Now that we got that out of the way, Robert, why don't you start this one out? It'd be exciting. Curse of the Demon it is.
Yeah. Well, I obviously I said I first thought it was about 12.
Right.
And it really stuck to me. Rewatched it again a few years back. Happy to see that it holds up pretty darn well. You can definitely see that was an influence on Sam Raimi and Drag Me to Hell.
Yeah, I picked that up quite a bit, especially towards the end. I was like, oh, okay, you got to pass off the little curse there, don't you?
I think all that's done well. I mean, I know Jacques Tourneur is not crazy about showing the demon at the beginning of the film. I'm A-okay with the demon at the beginning of the film because I think it's a great-looking piece of puppetry.
Yeah. It's a little creepy. A little weird.
And I think that the set piece surrounding it works great, too. I like how it kind of forms out of the darkness there with that kind of like firefly effect.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Lost took something from that, but he takes advantage of it by showing the smoke as like an indication of when the monster is going to show up, even if they don't show the monster in some of those scenes too.
Yeah, wasn't there a dispute with that? I mean, not just with the director, but like the editors or something with showing the monster. It was like a decision that the director didn't make, but the editor said, "I'm going to put the monster in," or something.
My understanding, it was in the script all along, and it's more of a post it came out and critics started suggesting that it might have been better not to show it, and Jacques Tourneur said, "Yeah, you're right."
Yeah.
Rather than a decision that anybody was really contemplating at the time it was filmed.
I see.
I think it's more a myth that they ever contemplated a version without the demon in it than it is actuality.
Dana Andrews called the editor a little son of a bitch for doing that.
I can see Dana Andrews saying that quite a bit. I don't know. I mean, to one extent, like, the conversation that he has with, and I am so bad with the names of these characters in this.
Yeah.
But the bad guy.
Neil McGinnis?
But his character's name?
Oh,
like Vassar or something like that.
Yeah.
Well,
something
anyway.
Like
but like the conversation when he goes to his estate, and again, this is such a weird sequence. Like, he's throwing a Halloween party for all these children, and his mother's there. Like, this guy who's like an Aleister Crowley type. And it's like, I'm just having a party on my palatial estate with all the neighborhood kids, and my mom's over there, and yeah, let's talk. But when he's like showing off his magic there, I mean, the way it's shot, I think it does try to keep a little bit ambiguous as to like, is he just full of shit or does he actually have powers? And I think, seeing the demon and knowing that the supernatural is actually real may kind of offset that. But even still, I think there's more to get out of this from like how interesting and bizarre some of these characters in Night, Curse, what have you, of the demon are, rather than in whether or not the supernatural exists.
Dr. Carswell.
Dr. Carswell, there we go.
Yeah.
yes.
Very good. Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't mind seeing the demon, but I think it would be interesting if the film had started out without that, to make us wonder if the Doctor's loony or not.
I think he's loony regardless.
Well, yeah, no, he is loony regardless, but
and even with showing the demon in the first 5 minutes, 2 minutes, like
early.
I think Tourneur still tops that with the last appearance of the demon too, and how that's mirrored with the train smoke and. Yeah, like and that's where he actually maybe keeps it a little bit even more ambiguous, or you're not sure like where the train ends and the demon begins. But I think like that's just he is able to take it one step farther, and I think it's a great way that he handles that. There you go. There's your train too.
Exactly. Train boner.
Mm-hmm. Train boner.
Yeah, I really love the way that Tourneur shoots this film. He had done color films, and he had done some other films in the time, but he really, back in his Luton days here, with all the deep shadows and along corridor. I love the shot of Carswell walking down the corridor where it kind of shimmers, and not sure what's going on there. I think that's just a wonderful effect. I think Tourneur integrates the visual scheme into the story, because Dana Andrews comes across in the plane. He can't get out of the light, so he can't fall asleep. But as soon as he gets into England, he's plunged in this world of shadows and half lit rooms and that. So I think that's all works really excellent. I think it's a director and the sort of material working hand in hand, and I think it really accentuates both of the strengths of them.
Yeah, and apparently Ray Harryhausen was originally going to be doing the demon effects, but he was too busy working on a film called The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad.
That's a pretty good film.
It is, isn't it?
Catherine Grant.
That would have been interesting to see Harryhausen in this scenario.
Yeah, I can't see Harryhausen doing one that would be truly scary, though.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, I like the demon in this. I think it's
a nice demon.
Yeah. I like him. He's a nice guy.
He likes trains too. He got that in common.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think one thing that we've brought up fairly consistently is just that Tourneur is interested in just the understanding of the human condition and trying to piece it together, and also tackle, science versus skepticism and all those themes that I've always found fascinating in of themselves. But here it's like, really, again, some of your beautiful expressionistic lighting and shadows, and just playing with your expectations throughout.
Well, I think even for that like I get a little bit more of a sense in Curse of the Demon that like supernatural or the magical world is more like a con game, like Dr. Vassar,
Carswell.
Dr. Carswell. Like Dr. Carswell, he comes off as like, an entertainer, or a entertaining magician, or like
Sure.
our concept of like a performing magician, or even a con man, and he acts like a con man. He talks like a con man. He tries to keep you in suspense as to whether or not he has powers, and he'll say, "Oh yeah, well I've been deciphering this, but then I couldn't decipher this other stuff." And like the whole discovery of like the runes and then matching them up to Stonehenge is a little bit hokey, and like at the very end of it, I mean, just the whole idea of like how this curse is transferred too. Like, I mean, that is sleight of hand. Like that's like a performing magician.
There are other horror movies that do that they just mention Stonehenge as being the source of the evil or something. I don't know if it's Prince of Darkness, but it's something fairly in that realm.
Well, the main thing is I think there's a little bit lighter heart, or at least like I don't think he treats the supernatural or black magic like as seriously.
Okay, yeah.
As
well,
another
he
film.
lives with his mother.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which would be a great scene. Carswell, did you take the laundry out? No, Ma, I gotta practice my demon curse.
Yeah, and
and his mother is quite a character, though. And as we've pointed out before, that she has her own actions that she takes, that she's gotten, I won't say fed up, but she thinks her son has gone too far and actually moves against him in some ways. So I think that's helps create a bigger world and fuller characters around it.
Yeah, again, I have very little to complain about with this film, and the final minutes of it are spectacular with his death, with Dr. Carswell's death.
Yeah.
Now,
I would say that the one major thing I have an issue with it is Dana Handler's performance. Is he's very pig-headed. And he does. I mean, there's a difference between skeptical and sticking your head in the sand, and I think he's
That's true.
He's very much wearing blinders through it, or at least being skeptical is one thing, but outright dismissing things without evidence of that is
but
part of what
that's kind of there's a history of that type of character in a lot of these films, and even in something like Melancholia with Kiefer Sutherland's character just being very dismissive.
Yeah, he's the Scully without the Mulder.
Yeah.
well, and then you also have like the good magical scientists like running around, with the Indian guy who just kind of like sits there and looks ominous and refuses to drink.
Yeah,
it's just all this mystique built up in this guy who doesn't end up doing too much.
Yeah, I like the dynamics, and I like the world of all these characters, and how certain things that I've seen in latter-day, more modern horror films, you can trace back to a lot of these films from Jacques Tourneur.
Now, Robert, would you say this film could be better if it were directed by Terence Fisher?
No, it would not be.
Really? You've heard it here first, folks.
Terence Fisher was good at many things, but he was more of a direct style, not a one that embraced ambiguity in terms of shooting style and that. But there'd be more blood in a Terence Fisher film,
and perhaps more tits.
Devil Rides Out is probably the closest equivalent Terence Fisher would make to this type of film.
I was just thinking of that when I was like watching this, and
I like The Devil's Rides Out, but it's quite a different film.
yeah. I love Charles Gray in that, and I would love to see Charles Gray take a turn at Dr. Carr as well.
Very good. Yeah, and if everybody's wondering why the Kate Bush song "Hounds of Love" is the song I'm choosing to end this episode with, it's because of the use of "It's in the trees, it's coming" from this film.
I do like the last line of the film, too. I do like, maybe it's better not to know. I think that sums up a lot of Tourneur film style.
That's a good note to head out on, honestly, because that is really, sort of, again, summarizes a lot of his themes, essentially. Maybe sometimes it is better not to know. But I do want to know what your top 3 Jacques Tourneur films might be.
Yikes!
I know, right?
I'm going to defer to Robert for the, and you can come back to me.
Oh boy, favorite or best?
Yeah,
favorite. I never do best. Like just the ones you want to rewatch more than the others. Your favorites.
I will go with I Walk with a Zombie, maybe because I've seen it in the theater. And the overwhelming sound design really works great in the theater, and it had an effect on me there. 2 would be Out of the Past, which is probably his best film and is certainly as perfect as a film gets. And 3 would be Cat People.
I'm going to go favorites, and the favorites are not going to be what I would say are the best. So I'm going to disqualify Cat People and Out of the Past from this. But I would say, number 1, I think, I had the most fun with Flame and the Arrow. Number 2, I would say Curse the Demon is a lot of fun and did remind me a lot of Devil Rides Out. But I like those like satanic rituals in merry old England, and just paranoia or like weird pseudo-science, supernatural of the 1950s. And then number 3, I would say I'd like to see it again, but I will go to bat a little bit for Nightfall, which we didn't have a chance to talk about, but it's worth seeing. A little bit in the similar vein of Out of the Past.
Oh, really? Okay.
Definitely can see the Fargo.
Yes.
Some ideas from Fargo were taken from this, if not superficially.
And Bancroft is very attractive in it.
Yes. Even though Aldo Ray, he basically, you're just waiting for him to go at some point when he's delivering any line. But Brian Keith is wonderfully sleazy, similar to Kirk Douglas in Out of the Past. But we're seeing pretty fun, great shots of Wyoming.
All right. Well, I'm going to have to check that one out for sure. So this list is probably going to change the more I see from this guy. But number 3 would be Curse of the Demon. Number 2 would be Cat People. Number 1, surprise, Out of the Past. And I will say, I thought the Comedy of Terrors was kind of funny. And I know that everybody else
First 5 minutes of it. Outside of that, yeah.
Laurie is pretty consistently funny in it.
Yeah.
He just doesn't get funny material.
Yeah.
Actually, I think Karloff may be the funniest performance in that.
In Rathbone?
Karloff. The father.
Oh, father, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Vincent Price is such a dick, man.
Yeah.
This movie, I'm just like, God.
I found the female be anti-comedy in that one, though.
Yeah.
That's definitely
the singing gets really old really fast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's the one thing that didn't work for me, for sure. Mm-hmm. Well, there's a few things that didn't work, but I still found it pretty amusing.
Yeah.
I was in a good mood.
Oh.
And the Twilight Zone episode he did is solid.
Yeah, that's exactly. I also like phone call weirdness in horror. It's, coming from inside the house, the phone calls and Scream. So anything involving phones and trains, I'm in. So the Twilight Zone is like an old woman is getting harassed by a phone call, and we slowly get to find out who is on the other line.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Is it Jacques Tourneur himself?
It is.
Hey. Is it... I was going to say, if you like seeing little kids shot, you can check out Wichita as well.
Oh, okay.
Always good entertainment.
Yeah.
Assault on Precinct 13.
Yeah, there you go. Mm-hmm. It's not the most climactic death scene. It's basically just a kid clutching, falling away. But yeah, it's another nice Western. Wilder comes to town and comes to Wichita and cleans it up.
Well, clearly there's going to have to be a sequel episode for this guy.
Yeah,
I think so.
And these are all the ones that like all of us have watched too, and there's probably
more.
like 15, 20 more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he has quite the filmography.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we didn't even watch the shorts.
No.
And I would recommend somebody check out Tupapow, which is kind of like a mini I Walk with a Zombie before he worked with Luton. So you get South Seas Island Superstition.
Ooh.
And Curses.
Ooh. Terrific, guys. Wow, that was great. I had a great time.
Us too.
Yeah.
Thanks for being on the show, of course, but we want to follow you. We want to stalk you on the internets. How do we do that? Where do we go?
Well, you go out to buy cornbread. And
of course. Cornmeal, but...
Cornmeal, that's right.
For our tortillas.
Exactly. Our tortillas, because when Father gets home, he'll be pissed if there's not hot tortillas waiting for him.
I know what that's like.
This is from The Leopard Man, by the way, in case you were just wondering.
Right.
Obscure references, even though...
But seriously, folks, where can we find you on this great World Wide Web that is so popular with everybody these days?
Well, Robert, you can find on any film message board.
Or you can find me at wherethelongtailends.com, all one word, where we have our Still Watching the Skies podcast will come up every month. Usually like clockwork. I can't guarantee that for November, but it'll be up in November.
It will.
And there's a ton of reviews I have up there for the Milwaukee Film Festival as well.
Splendid.
Including, in addition to your Kurosawa in order.
Yes.
And my Wells in order, which stopped before I did the write-up of
Touch of Evil.
Touch of Evil, which is coming sometime in the next 50 years.
Wow. How about you, Nat? I know you've recently had another wonderful podcasting endeavor with a certain former guest of the show, Kurt Half Yard.
Yes.
Or Yard.
And his lovely wife, Laura Jane, who is awesome. I will give a shout out to Laura Jane. But yeah, we have a microcast coming on Pride and Prejudice. And you can also, until that drops, you can also check out our previous ones on The Prisoner and I, Claudius. Those you can find also at wherethelongtailends.com, all one word, or row3.com.
So we can use the hits.
That's true. Exactly. So, screw row 3. Come to wherethelongtailends.com.
Yeah. We don't need to promote those row 3 guys anymore.
Yeah, punks.
Yeah. And come back, Matt Gamble. Well, we miss you.
Come back, James Gillum. Screw Matt Gamble.
Oh, that goes without saying. I think anybody on planet Earth at this point would agree. Or they know. As far as me, I'm all over the place. I'm at Letterboxd at Instant Jim. I'm on Twitter at Instant Jim. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Spotify. I'm on iTunes Music. I'm on Bandcamp.
Where aren't you in the internet, Jim?
I'm everywhere. And I'm always listening to podcasts. I wake up and listen to a podcast. I go to bed listening to a podcast. And it's not my own, but you can find that at directorsclubpodcast.com. Send me an email, directorsclubpodcast@gmail.com. Oh boy, in 2 weeks do I have an episode for you guys to check out very soon, because it features one of my favorite, if not my favorite guest. No, I'm not playing favorites. I shouldn't say that, because I love everybody equally. They're all my children. Bill Ackerman. Yeah. Host of supporting characters of the Now Playing Network. You should also check out nowplayingnetwork.net, by the way. Duh. So Bill is going to be joining me to talk about a guy by the name of Peter Bogdanovich. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's made some good films, I gotta say, including The Last Picture Show and Paper Moon. And She's Kind of Funny That Way.
What's up, Doc? They all laughed.
the hits just keep on coming.
Texasville.
No. Ouch. But no, we'll get to all those and more in about 2 weeks. Thanks, Robert. Thanks, Nat.
Thank you, Jim.
For being on the show.
And thank you, Robert.
Yeah. Thank you for coming out.
Great.
All right. Goodbye, everyone. We'll talk to you in a couple weeks for the Peter Bogdanovich episode. Goodbye.
It's in the trees. It's coming.
When I was a child, running in the night, afraid of what might be, hiding in the dark, hiding in the street, and the world was full of enemy. The hounds of love are hunting. I've always been the coward, and I don't know what's good for me.
That's Walter Brennan.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
Andy Devine.
Yeah. Well, gee, here, guys. Let's go and raise that cabin.
Oh, Stumpy. That's Walter Brennan again. I'm trying to think. I can't remember any lines from Rio Bravo now. I did at one point.
Well, that's Walter Brennan.
Right.
Are you trying to do Walter Brennan or Andy Devine?
Now I'm trying to do Walter Brennan.
That's real good music there.
It's good.
Let's whip out that harmonica and play it for us.